Hello there. What is going on, everyone? We're doing a different kind of stream today. I want to talk about gaming as a whole, and I got thinking this morning of it started out as what are some of the worst games that I've ever played, and it turned into I don't necessarily think it's as much about the game specifically, but more about game experiences. Because I think even a bad game can be enjoyable when you're playing with good people, and then even a good game can be a miserable time if you're playing with the wrong people or under the wrong circumstances. What's going on? What's going on, Jock Cop and AGU Dark Shadow? What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining in. Um, and so hopefully you guys are having a wonderful weekend and are all settled in and got your holiday shopping done, if doing some, and you got spending some good time with friends and family and having a great time. But this today's stream, I just want to talk about some of the worst gaming experiences. Clay, any news on the Armada update? I posted a video I think last week with the latest news that it's going to contain some rules and updated cards, which could mean a lot of different things. Could mean quite a bit. So definitely check that video out. I go into as much detail as I can. There's some things that I know or I've been told that would be inappropriate for me to share just yet, but we'll see. I don't want to get some people in trouble, But overall, I'm excited. That's the long and the short of it. What's going on, everybody? Okay, so we're talking about some of the worst gaming experiences and what makes a game a lousy game experience, and beyond just this is just a bad game, because there have definitely been some games that I haven't liked. There's some games that people just love that I didn't like. One I'm gonna put now. This is a hot take. I'm gonna give you guys a hot take. One that I didn't like as much, that is very, very popular, and it's not a bad game, but for me it wasn't very good. And that's Blood Rage. I know everybody loves Blood Rage, and I'm gonna tell you why. For me, it wasn't very good. And it's a very simple answer. I've got a better game. I got a better version of it. And that's gonna be Rising Sun. Like, I absolutely love Rising Sun. And to me, Blood Rage is like, because Rising Sun came out afterwards, so Rising Sun was almost like an upgrade to Blood Rage. And so when I played Blood Rage, I'm like, I mean, I see the appeal, but gosh, I'd just rather be playing Rising Sun. And so I'm currently selling my copy of Blood Rage with Kickstarter exclusives too, as a matter of fact. It's on the Facebook Marketplace for if you're in Orlando and you're looking for a copy of Blood Rage. The only advantage I think it has is that if you're only playing 2 players, you can't really do that with Rising Sun. So Blood Rage works better with a smaller player group. Jock says, he said, I had a stereotypical that guy once, constantly intentionally forgot rules, argued every point, refused to chat during the game, eventually literally stormed off like a child when called out. Hello from Australia. What's going on? Oh, wow. It's 3:44 a.m. in Australia. I appreciate you staying with us. Or my condolences for your insomnia. But so, Jock, that's an interesting take, and I'm going to jump to a story I was going to tell about one of my favorite games, but it turned into one of my worst ever gaming experiences. And this is actually going to be 2 that kind of go together, but I'm going to start with Twilight Imperium. My local Orlando friends have heard this one all too many times. I get teased about this one all the time because they know how terrible it was. So, how many of you have ever played Twilight Imperium? It's a massive game. It's like the granddaddy of all games, so to speak, of 4X games, of big games. It's one of those, you set aside a whole day to play this game, and you and your friends, you're like, okay, you plan out meal breaks. You start early in the day, you finish late in the day. It's one of those type of games. Twilight Imperium 4th Edition is one of my favorite games of all time. Maybe my favorite board game experience. If I could have only one board game to play on my birthday, I want to play Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. Like, I love Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. To me, I don't care if I lose. I've never won Twilight Imperium. I don't care if I ever win. Maybe one day it'll happen. Statistically, it'll probably happen someday. But I play for the experience of it. I play for, maybe getting second place is cool. But I play for like those moments, and when the game's over, it's like, oh, you almost had it. Oh, but when you did that, that was epic. You have all these great moments in Twilight Imperium. So I love it. A couple of years ago, I got involved in a group that was, another local who is really big into Twilight Imperium, and I've had some good and bad experiences with him as well, where he would want the game to last as long as possible. Like it couldn't be done in less than 4 hours. He wouldn't allow it. He would deliberately, engineer the game. Like he could be ready to win the game right away, and he would deliberately stop, and whoever was in last place, he would help them so that just to force the game to take as long as was possibly able, which that hurt it for me, because I've also played with some really great folks that we can get a whole game done in 4 hours. And I'm like, wow, that's or even I think we did a game in 3 hours one time. If everybody knows the rules and everybody plays quickly, you could definitely do Twilight Imperium very quick. But there's inevitably always one new player that has to be taught, and that's one of the things that stretches the rules out. And that's not always a bad thing. So we were at a convention, and we were playing Twilight Imperium, and I agreed to go with my friend who was a slow player. And I just said, all right, well, I'm going to get out there, and this is going to be, we're going to start really early. And we started really early. Now, I had just been playing several games with people who would play very quickly. So I was thinking, we can get this done in 4 hours. We're going to start at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and which isn't very early, but it's early enough. We're going to start at 9, and hopefully I'll be done by like 1 or 2. Again, that day happens to be the 4th of July. And I'm thinking, okay, so then I can play a couple more games, then I get home and before fireworks, because my wife wanted me home that day. This was a local convention, so I just drove out for the day. She wanted me home, in time for dinner and then fireworks with the kids and all of that stuff. If you're outside of the United States, 4th of July is our Independence Day. We always set off fireworks. We do a lot of stuff like that. So we're playing Twilight Imperium. First off, there's only me and the other guy, the only ones who've ever played before. Everybody needed a teach. So that meant that, and granted, teaching 1 versus teaching 4, you'd think it's the same, but it's not, because some people process instructions fine. There was at least somebody who had a question about every single rule. So we didn't even get started for about 3 hours. Game could have been over before we were ready to begin. So that was a little bit frustrating. That wasn't the end of the world though. But the play was so slow, and there were constant questions. Everybody was like, all right, what do I do? I'm like, all right, first turn, all you do is just kind of move, you spread your guys out, you try to take a planet or two, your first turn. And so like by the first turn, I think we were already at like 2 p.m. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I think we got to like turn 3 by like 3:30 or 4. And my wife is now texting me. She's like, are you on your way home? And I'm like, no. And by the way, Twilight Imperium can play either to a 10 victory points, or 14 for the really long victory point game. This guy said that we were playing 14 points, and I'm like, we're going to be here for like 3 days at the rate this is going. And so I'm texting my wife. I'm like, I'm not going to make it home for fireworks. And she's like, well, you had better. And so I'm stressed. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen. So I'm already having kind of a rough time. And so it's about 4 o'clock. I'm thinking, well, maybe we'll just go quickly, or maybe I'll let somebody invade my home system and I'll be eliminated. So that was kind of my plan. This way, we can. This way, it won't be me like abandoning the game. I'll have gotten eliminated. One of the guys takes Mechatol Rex, the center. He's got like the whole board on lockdown. We break for dinner. This guy apparently wanted to just leave and not come back. So then we come back for like a quick dinner break. It's like 4:30. We're looking around like, this guy never comes back. 5 o'clock comes. He's still not there. We're like, all right, he's not coming back. And there's no easy way to correct the game state, because he's everywhere. His stuff is he's got the whole middle system. He's got, he's got so many strategic resources. How do you divvy all that up? So we decided to just call the game. So it was the whole day of my first convention, or one of my first conventions that I was attending normally. And I was so annoyed with the whole thing. Like, it wasted the whole day. Like, didn't even really get to play the game. And then it got, and then somebody had the nerve to just like leave in the middle of it. without even saying a word. And then we were sitting around waiting for him and waiting for him. And then I was late, so I missed dinner. Managed to barely get home in time to do fireworks. And I don't think I even went back to the rest of the convention after that. I think I said, screw it, I'm not doing this convention anymore. So yeah, that was like probably one of my worst gaming experiences ever. Happened to be on one of my favorite games of all time, and it just goes to show, for one, don't abandon a game even if you're not having a good time. Say something. Don't just like sneak off. Just be like, guys, I'm having a miserable time. And then we can at least find a way to do it. Like, all right, well, can you give us one more turn? We'll all just attack your home. We'll take your home system, or something like that. Everybody will know. I think the rudest thing was not just leaving. I mean, leaving a game is pretty rude, but if you're incredibly miserable, I don't think anybody should be forced to endure 6 more hours of absolute misery just for the sake of the game. I understand that, but say something. We were sitting around for like an extra hour waiting for this guy. I could have just left right then. I could have made dinner. I could have got home and, for the holiday and all that stuff. So that's one of my most miserable gaming stories. And it boils down to like, don't just abandon the game. Let me see. I missed some of the chat. Missed some of the stuff. Let's see. All right. AGU Dark Shadow says, playing in an X-Wing tournament, and I had a dude check his watch every couple of seconds. When we were close to the time, he started slow playing. Oh, and his last ship was at 1 HP, and he said that should be time. Whoa, that's lousy. That is lousy. Yeah, and that's an interesting thing. I've had that happen before. I've had slow play before in an Armada tournament. I was playing a fella who was running was running Starhawk and a Gate Starhawk, like the Unkillable. Let's start with a Farm Hawk was the list. Basically, I've got this tank that you probably won't be able to kill, and then I'm just going to farm points the whole time with objectives. And I had a bunch of Architans, and I could have cracked the nut, but the thing is, I needed all 6 rounds of the game. I needed every round and every ship firing every round in order to be able to do it. And from the very first turn, he started slow playing. I think it was a half an hour before we got his ship activated. I had no squadrons. And so when it came time for him to do squadrons, he was like, oh, being really cautious. I'm like, there's literally no opposition. There's no decision to make. Just move your squadrons or leave them where they are. I have nothing that can threaten your squadrons at all. Why are you spending, 20 minutes trying to move your squadrons? And he didn't even have that many. He had some. It was deliberate slow play. And because I think he knew just as well as I did, if I only got 4 or 5 turns, I couldn't win. The only way I could win is if the game went to its full 6 turns. So I think by turn 2, we were already halfway through time, more than halfway through time. And I was just like, so I'd given up. So I just started flying my ships away, and then once he saw, oh, you're flying your ship, oh, you've given up. Then he started fast playing, and then we got to finish the whole game, but I still didn't have enough shots because I had already started just flying my ships away, and I had just mentally already, given up. So that's another miserable thing. I hate the idea of I have to win at all costs, such that I'm going to do unethical things. And I've had people cheat. I had a fella who used to, I was certain, we would pre-measure stuff. I'm like, okay, so I'm at close range of this ship after I move. So I'm like, so next turn I'm going to be shooting you at close range. And then, something happens, I answer some questions, people tap me on the shoulder or whatever. We come back next turn, when I go get ready to shoot, he's like, yeah, you're not at close range. I'm like, but I was. He's like, well, you're not now. I don't know what happened. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know what happened? We measured it. It was a close range. He's like, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. It's not close range. And I'm like, did you bump my ship? And I would see when he was pre-measuring, he would hold his tool out and it would be a little deliberately shaky. I always thought it was deliberately shaky until one day when I was playing him, he was rolling to attack me and he rolled blank dice and I caught him changing 2 of them to double hits. And I don't think he saw me looking, and I'm like, well, what let you change those dice? And he's just like, oh, I don't know. And he changed them back to blanks. I'm like, you're like literally you're changing dice, dude. You know, and so then it all came together. I'm like, you're literally cheating at Armada, and you have been this all the months that I've known you, and so I've never played that guy since. Let's see. All right. A Golden Age of Star Wars Legion. Legion's still all right, but no, I have Legion's not as much fun for me as it used to be. Now, if you just started playing and you're enjoying it, then great. I don't think it's going to change too much more. I think some things will still change. I think for the most part, AMG has changed Legion so much that it's now their game. I could see them changing one or two more things, but I don't know. Who knows? I liked Legion a lot more in the early days. I liked it a lot more in the beginning. And I liked the terrain rules. I liked the movement. My biggest problem with playing Legion today is I used to really enjoy the terrain. I liked the true line of sight that we had with Legion. I mean, it wasn't true line of sight specifically, but it played pretty much like true line of sight, and it was so close to true line of sight that you could just play with true line of sight. And what that means is basically I'm using I don't have Legion models out in front of me, but I've got some Skaven. Could this guy actually see this guy? And is my head in the way? You know, and then you'd get down like at eye length and look at this guy from his head to the other guy. Can I see? Oh, I can see his foot. Okay, so I can shoot him, but he's gonna have heavy cover, you know, or something like that. Oh, I feel a sneeze coming on. This is live, so I can't. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. Is there only one? Wait, more? Goodness gracious. All right, we're ready. I can never sneeze just once. I'm terrible at sneezing. I need to learn how to do it right the first time. So no, I think Legion is still in a good spot. I think it's still enjoyable, but I liked the old, shooting and line of sight stuff more. And I also like the terrain rules as far as movement and climbing a lot more. It used to make traversing terrain more interesting and more difficult, and it used to make things like jump and jetpacks and things like that way more meaningful. And the way that they've changed climb to where every unit in the game, everybody, every stormtrooper, every rebel trooper, everything can fly, basically has jump 1, kind of if they do a speed 1 move. That really bothers me. That's it makes it to where like I feel like from a top-down perspective, all the terrain is just flat, and everybody if you're crossing a piece of terrain, you have to do speed 1. You know, that's so I feel like the AMG's kind of turned Legion into a flat top-down game. Now, granted, it doesn't look like that when you actually set up terrain, but also you look at like tournament tables and versus the type of tables that I like to put together. Like I like to put together thematic, really cool. Like I like lots of line of sight blocking terrain. I want something that's like a GoldenEye level almost. It's cool stuff like that. But it's hard to do stuff that's that thick when you've got big vehicles also. So that's something to think about. I think I liked Legion best before the large based vehicles came out, before like the tank and the AT or the AAT. And that's not an AMG criticism. It became a little bit harder to fit those really, really big things into the maps the tighter, the more heavily packed maps that I liked to do for Legion. But Legion also, when it first came out, felt like it could support any possible type of terrain. Anything you could dream up would work. And nowadays it's like not so much. You kind of need things that are a lot more empty and sparse and with just like little bits of scatter and area terrain, and it ends up looking kind of like Age of Sigmar. As much as I really love Age of Sigmar, the terrain rules for Warhammer Age of Sigmar are just ugly. Like you've got to have pretty much an empty flat map with just like with like literally 6 pieces of terrain in these 6 specific areas. So it's like it almost plays more like a board game on a flat map with a couple of little boulders here and there. So, I don't like that as much. But I understand the need for it because in Age of Sigmar, you have like these massive armies. My clan rats might take up a piece of space like this big, right? So, it's you need the room to be able to maneuver everybody. Everybody ends up being in base contact, and you have these giant, battlefields. Like think of the movie Braveheart, and they have all these massive armies just converging on each other, and that kind of happens a lot with Age of Sigmar. So I understand the need for it, but it still would be nice to set up like epic battlefields that have multiple varying heights of terrain and underground caves and things like that. I'd love to have all of that going on, which would be really cool. Um, yeah. Oof. My sneezing is getting me. Hold on. Mm. Oh boy, doing live stuff is weird. Dusty out in the garage. Okay. So we were talking about bad gaming experiences, bad games. I've played some bad games. I think a lot of times when I play a game that's basically a carbon copy of another game, that kind of hurts. That kind of hurts the bad game. Another thing that makes a game kind of bad is when somebody's teaching and it's a game you've never played before, like a board game specifically, and the person's a very bad teacher. And that's like, and I feel I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but like it's one of those things I know a lot of people hate. It's like, oh, if a certain person is teaching, and they're just very very slow at it or not very good at it, it can make that experience kind of bad. Uh, you'll take my line of sight, but you'll never take the dice roll. Well, they kind of did. I don't think you can use the FFG dice app anymore. So, I love the FFG dice app. It has dice for literally every Star Wars game. From Imperial Assault to Rebellion to X-Wing, Armada, Legion. It's pretty cool. It's very cool. All right, let's see what do some of you guys have to say. You just finished an Etsy ATDT from the Solo movie for Legion. Oh, cool. I had a game where your opponent was constantly using his tape measure to work out where his ship was going. The rules allowed pre-measuring, but he was doing it for every ship. Yeah, I can see that. I can see the frustration with that, but at the same time, I understand the need to do it. I think it boils down to, is it slowing the game down? I had talked to the developers for Star Trek Into the Unknown, and I was asking them, about pre-measuring because it wasn't in the rule book, and the guidance I got from them was like, yeah, absolutely, you can always pre-measure. The goal is to be sporting and to keep the game flow going quickly. One of the problems if you don't allow pre-measuring is that somebody may then, and this happened, I think, in X-Wing a long time ago, is they didn't allow pre-measuring. So it forced, before somebody would do a move, they would spend a lot longer, like looking at everything and trying to mentally calculate every possible move and every possible, like Armada, for example, with squadrons. Here's a better example. Armada with their squadrons said you could pre-measure, but you could only use one tool, so you couldn't triangulate. So I wanted to go from here to here, but I needed to be within 1 inch of all of these guys. So then, instead of just letting me triangulate, here's my intention. I want to go here. I want to be within 1 inch of all these guys. Can I make that? Looks like I can probably make that. But since I can't pre-measure, it now becomes very difficult to get that move down. So what would happen in tournaments is that people would be like, okay, hold on, I'm going to measure exactly 1 inch to this guy, and then measure exactly 1 inch to this guy, and they would have to measure every possible other squadron within range, and then one at a time, but not triangulating, figure out where that was going to be. So it would end up taking 12 minutes to move a single squadron or something like that, since you could only use one tool at a time. And eventually a lot of tournament organizers said, you know what, let's speed up the game, declare your intention, and then you can triangulate for this, because the alternative is the game is going to take, you're only going to get through 2 turns. And so I can understand the need to pre-measure, from that perspective. But as far as speeding the game up, if they're doing it so methodically that it really slows the game down, that can be a bummer. I always have a problem playing games against folks that take too long. Um, a lot of big squadron games have sometimes done that. It's one of the reasons I don't like squadrons. Um, if I've got like 134 points of squadrons and you've got 134 points of squadrons and I'm really trying to win and trying to play really well, there's so much calculation and we're not going to get through the whole game, not even close. And then the time in the round is going to be done. Everybody else is going to be done sitting there waiting for us to finish up because as we go into overtime, you know. Um, yeah. Are the Legion dice being removed from the Fantasy Flight app? No, I don't think the Fantasy Flight app has changed at all. But according to the tournament rules, you actually have to roll dice. You can't use an app. Um, Under Fantasy Flight, you were always allowed to use the Fantasy Flight dice app. AMG is just saying you can't use the Fantasy Flight dice app anymore. Of course, your TO can always just be like, fine, as long as your opponent agrees. I've had it before where both of us just decide to use the app. I don't like sharing phones back and forth, though. I don't want you touching my phone if I can help it, for the most part. But that's how it goes. Now, the dice app is pretty cool, but I'd rather actually roll dice in a tournament. But I like having the dice app because, especially if I'm sitting somewhere or I'm at work or I'm in the bathroom or whatever, and I'm thinking like, I wonder how much, a full unit of fleet troopers with an aim would do, and I can do a couple of sample rolls and see, and it's just fun to, to think about how that would all work out. So that's cool, but I can understand, when people are trying to win at all costs and trying to be so methodical about stuff that it slows the game down and becomes problematic. They get expensive when you need a lot of them. I have so many. I've never really even stopped to think about that, but because I think I bought three. Did I buy three? No, I bought 2 core sets when the game first came out, and then I bought 2 of each, 2 of the Clone Wars core sets. So that's a lot. I don't know if, and I think I even got one of the Essentials kits that I think I had more dice in it too. So yeah, I've got a lot of Legion dice. Quite a bit. I don't know if I ever did like a standalone dice pack for Legion. That would have been a funny. I did that for Imperial Assault one time. It was, I think, my first ever April Fool's joke. Is I did an unboxing of the dice pack for Imperial Assault. I'm like, let's look at these dice. Yeah, all right. That's definitely a cube. It was, and I knew it was absurd, so I uploaded it as my first ever April Fool's joke. It's a good little trivia thing. What was my first April Fool's video? Although I have a whole playlist of April Fool's videos, so that's funny. Let's see. So, what are some of your worst gaming experiences? I've got some more too that I can think of. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I remember I think it was my first X-Wing tournament. I was so nervous. My first X-Wing tournament, I was so nervous that I was shaking. My hands were shaking. And I kept apologizing to my opponent because I couldn't be as accurate as I wanted to because my hands were shaking so much. And I think the poor dude felt so bad for me. He was like, "It's okay, man. It's okay." I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm shaking." Yeah, it was rough. Can you have Mini Crab hail you on the bridge of the Enterprise? When I'm on the Enterprise, probably can do that. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to work out some stuff. Oh my gosh, it would be funny to get some like Klingon makeup or something like that. I could come up with like, I am Crabbok of House. I don't know what house I'd be a. House Moog, perhaps. Oh, that would be funny. I don't know how I would do that because I don't have any kind of makeup stuff. It would be something special. I'd have to put some other kind of genitalia on my forehead in order to, be a different type of Star Trek alien. All right, let's see. I have to roll buckets of dice at one time. Drags me. It puts. Oh, really? Buckets of dice is. I do like rolling a lot of dice. There are some units. Since I've been playing Skaven, they have they definitely have some things that are like death by a thousand cuts. You know, the clan rats. You know, they roll so many dice. It's like I have to count out 40 dice. Hold on a second. You know, we're just dropping 40 d6s on the table, and then like, all right, let's find all the sixes. Hold on, let's pull out all the fives and sixes. It's rough. One thing about that though is it is bad if you have like you're rolling so many dice and the dice knock over the minis and move all the minis. That's rough. There is so all right. As much as I'm like talking about other people ruining game experiences and this cheater and that person, I did something like that one time, so I'm going to take ownership of it. We were doing an interior battle report, and we had kind of custom rules for the interior. So it was using the LV-427 terrain and was doing all corridors, and we were inside like a space station or something like that. And everything, all the corridors were very narrow, you know, and we decided on some things ahead of time, like no vehicles and stuff like that. And I was trying to do something that I thought would have been very clever, but it was kind of nasty. And since then I was like, that was messed up, and I should never try to do gotchas before. And I said, I don't like gotchas. So what I mean, and I'll explain what a gotcha is. So because we were doing custom rules for this Legion, I said, okay, so since we're inside, we're not in the outdoors, we're not on a battlefield, we're inside a station. Why don't we limit certain effects to line of sight only, like force push, for example. You know, force abilities that require. I said so. It was one of these deals where I'm trying to remember exactly how the conversation went, but it was something like we said, all right, issuing commands, you have to be line of sight. Like maybe the radios don't work, and I have to like shout it to you, and so if you're in a different room, you can't hear me. Force abilities on force upgrade cards also require line of sight. But I was running Darth Vader with Vader's Might, the 1-pip, and so like then when we were playing, I basically took his commander, ripped it through the wall, put it into a different room with all my guys, and they all shot him and killed him. And it was a real feels bad on him. And I'm like, yeah, but we said force upgrade cards couldn't work, but no, we said nothing about command cards. And it was totally against the spirit of the game, and it was just designed to be a gotcha that I thought was going to be funny, and it was not funny. So I take ownership of that. So ever since that day, I'm like, all right, that was a jerky thing to do, and I'm sorry, and I won't ever do that again. But that was a gotcha. That was, and I hate that. I think it's important to declare your intentions. I also think if you've got upgrade cards that you don't think your opponent has seen yet or hasn't, especially if they're a new player, it's a good idea to be like, hey, just so you know, I have, you may want to look up the ships that I look at the upgrades I have over here in case you step in. If you come into his range, he's going to kill you, And so I'll do a lot of stuff like that because I don't want to ruin somebody's day with a gotcha, and I usually don't want to win because I tricked my opponent, unless that's the nature of the game. Like if I'm playing Star Wars Rebellion, I will totally do gotchas because that is the nature of that game. It's mind games, and you're trying to deceive and trick your opponent. So that one, it's okay. But not a game like Armada, Legion, or X-Wing, or Star Trek Into the Unknown is another one that, since the rules are new, there's certain things we need to think about. I'm like, okay, if you stay right there, I can then attack last and launch a torpedo, and you won't be able to dodge it. So are you sure you want to stay there? Because I'm probably going to blow up your ship. We'll do that. And I don't think it's required that you say like what you're probably going to do. But since the game is new and we're all still trying to figure it out, one of the worst things you can do is play really hard against somebody when a game is brand new, because some people absorb the rules differently. And what you might do is you might push somebody away from the game. They may be like, you know what? Screw this. I'm done. I'm not playing this game anymore. And that's the last thing you want to do. So, so take it easy with a new game is my suggestion. Let's see. I missed some chat. We'll keep it going. You're getting buzzed by A10s flying over. A10. You live near a base? A10s or are you in a war zone? I would not be happy if A-10s were flying over. Although I used to live on military installations, and so sometimes that's just normal. Um, every mech had a huge backstory, and he wouldn't let the players alter what they would do at a risk of committing war crimes was too much. Oh, what game is that? I think I missed something. Someone was teaching BattleTech. The dude was way too over into the universe. Oh, I see. So yeah, I could see that. 100% with this for Into the Unknown. Take it slow and ease everybody into the spirit of the game. Oh, so speaking of Star Trek Into the Unknown, it's so interesting to me because I've been playing it a lot lately. I think I'm on game 7, or I think we've completed 6 full games now. Done a campaign. We're going to be finishing it up soon. Campaign feels a little bit more like Deep Space Nine, whereas I think an incident mission feels more like Next Generation. Think of it as, a serialized show versus a Monster of the Week kind of show, and so that's interesting. And I think each of them offers a different play style, because in a campaign, there's potentially long-term consequences for abandoning the mission and just saying, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to blow you up. Because that can hurt me, I can get less points, but also I can make you spend your points on having to replace your lost crew. Like something like that happened recently. I talked about it in one of the Discords, but like I ended up destroying the Defiant. I was playing as the Jem'Hadar. I destroyed the Defiant, but they launched an escape pod. So all of the officers on board survived. Ben Sisko was there, a whole bunch of other officers. They got on board the escape pod with a security team and made it down, and there was a planet nearby. They were able to make it to the planet because he had priority next turn. I was like, I'm going to shoot down that escape pod, but he got to go first. He activated the escape pod. It made it to the planet, and everybody landed, and they were safe until I got to activate. And then I took my guys. I beamed them over, or I flew the ships, to orbit the planet and beamed everybody down. We had a firefight, and I managed to roll like a couple of doubles. Like I rolled really, really well. So I killed a security team and I captured all of his officers. I captured Cisco, and it was all of his generic officers, but I captured he's just like, you just captured like almost everybody because all of his people were on the Defiant, and he had only a skeleton crew on the rest of the fleet. But he did have a couple. I think he had Jedzia Dax on the other thing, and he had Kira, but she didn't join this mission. So he still had like 2 other officers. And he's like, I only have 2 officers left. I think you just won the campaign. I can't even do the next mission. And we looked it up and found out you can and whatever. But doing that in a campaign, even though I was losing, but I had an opportunity to take out his crew and to capture Ben Sisko, was cool because now he's at a disadvantage for the next mission. But if this was a tournament, that wouldn't have offered me. I would have still lost, and and you're not really captured unless they come up with like a tournament thing. Whereas like your guys that die are also dead for the next tournament round. Wouldn't that be crazy? But I think that would be bad because then you could have somebody going like full troll mode and be like, all right, fine, I'm just gonna blow up your ship. I'm gonna ignore. I don't care. I'll lose the first round just so I make sure that you can't win. The late game tournament rounds. Like that. So that could be a bad thing. So, but then again, in a standalone game, there's different things to consider because I don't care if I lose my own ship because I'll just get it back in the next game. So like there's weird things. I don't know how like a tournament scenario is going to work with that game because there's certain things that work better for a standalone game and certain things that work better for a campaign. And it sounds very interesting to me. Either way, it's fun. And I think when we come into situations in Star Trek that are like, I don't know how this would work out. I try to ask myself, well, how would it work out in the show? How would it work out in an episode of Star Trek? Like, is a friendly unit at comms distance of itself? Could, like, for example, the Enterprise can inspire. All right, it can inspire a ship. And it's like, but what if the Enterprise was by itself? It's got nobody to inspire. Can it inspire itself? It says a ship at comms range. Am I considered to be at comms range of myself? And I'm like, that's a good question. And I know how that works in other games. I don't know how that works here, but here's what I think. What's happening is basically Picard is getting on the intercom and giving an inspiring speech. And he can do that for another ship that's nearby. He can do that over comms. but there's nothing that says that Picard couldn't also inspire his own crew by getting on the ship's internal intercom. So I think absolutely. I think absolutely you're within comms range of yourself. I think absolutely you can do inspiring on your own crew because that's what Picard does. Right. So and so that's how we played it out. And it just made sense. And I think that it coincides with the actual rules as well. But we didn't bother looking it up all the way at the time because this Star Trek Into the Unknown is super fun and those models are super cool. So those are some of my bad gaming moments. I think I had a couple more, but I'm gonna read over some of your guys' comments and see what other. Is there a digital copy of the rules for Star Trek Into the Unknown? Yes, there is. You want to make cheat sheets? I really want to make. I want to make cheat sheets too, and I'm maybe I'll work on this weekend. There are so many times I'm looking up things, and they don't, and I need a quick reference sheet. One is the game rounds. I'm gonna put this. That's like in the middle of the rule book, and it needs to be on its own card or on the back of the book or something like that. The game needs cheat sheets. It needs quick reference cards, and there are some things that aren't explained good enough that the game needs cheat sheets for, like launching probes and things like that. Yeah. Australia's still waiting for the Into the Unknown release. It's came out this week, so it's showing up everywhere in real time. So if your stores don't have it yet, they should be getting it any day now. It's worth the wait. It's super fun, and hopefully some of my videos and some of the other videos that other content creators are putting out there will help because it's heavy. The rules are. It's not a light rules game. There's a lot of complications. I mean, my last game was my 6th game. It still took us 4 hours because we kept looking up, because when you're playing through the campaign, you're getting new capabilities added all the time. So this was the first time we had like escape pods and stuff, and we had to look up how to launch an escape pod. And this, like, when you finally find the page that says escape pods, it references like 2 other pages in different books, and so we're just like, you finally found it. It's in page 92. Oh, okay, escape pods. Follow the procedures in the Learn to Play, page 17. Oh, hold on. We'll put that book away. Go back to page 17. Find this other book and open that book up. And this is gonna, like launching auxiliaries, and as this, that is also covered on the rules reference on page 60. So there's a lot of just opening other books and other pages, and that's one of my complaints with Star Trek Into the Unknown is it needs quick reference cards for everything. We need a quick reference card for launching probes, a quick reference card for launching torpedoes, and the torpedoes are explained pretty well in the rule book, but we still need quick reference cards for them because it's going to happen. It's going to happen multiple times, and definitely a turn structure, quick reference, like that's one of the biggest ones that are needed. Hailing, maybe quick reference for hailing, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we still have to look up from time to time, that some reference cards would really help for. So that's my thoughts. I'm sure if somebody hasn't done it on Board Game Geek by now, I'm sure they will. I'm gonna try and do it today. Maybe not today. I got other things to do. What's my favorite game? Armada. Armada is my favorite miniatures game. My favorite board game is Twilight Imperium. My favorite 2-player board game is Star Wars Rebellion. There's other things that are quickly, like, I think Armada might eventually, it's going to be my historically favorite game, but after years and years of no new content, it's probably time for me to pick a different favorite miniatures game. Star Trek Into the Unknown has the potential to be there, but it doesn't have enough content right now. And I'm super excited for it. I want more ships. I want Romulans. I want Klingons. I want Cardassians. I want more Federation ships. And I want a little bit of depth for the different factions. And I think once we get a couple more ship expansion packs, then it's going to be great. Like, I like to photograph. I like to put stuff on Instagram and stuff like that. I like putting fancy backdrops on and doing my photo sessions and stuff like that. And Deep Space Nine and putting the space station in the background and all of that. I love doing that stuff in addition to playing the game. So the game satisfies me on 2 different levels, which is cool. But Armada may be my all-time favorite game. But if I want to pick a favorite game of something that's like in production right now, currently it's probably Warhammer Age of Sigmar. I love Warhammer Age of Sigmar. I love the models. To me, it's not so much about the gameplay, although the gameplay is actually better than it's ever been before. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I actually got some more Skavens. My friend Sean has just decided he's not going to play his Skavens, so and we do that. Like I had orcs left over from the Dominion box, so he gave me the Skavens from his Skaventide box and stuff. So I've got even more. I finally have. I had finished. I had cleared out. I had finished my pile of shame. I have some Shatterpoint stuff that I didn't paint that I decided I'm just not going to paint because I really hate that game right now. I think Shatterpoint is like maybe the worst game that exists. But and it's funny because when it first launched, I remember doing a review of Shatterpoint and I said, I think Shatterpoint might just actually be a little better than Star Wars Legion. That was very naive of me to say because like my first game was fun, and I think part of it was because it was new, and I was like, "Oh, a new Star Wars game, this is cool." Until I like played it like one or two more times and realized, oh, this game is broken and it's not fun. Yeah, the minis are really nice for Shatterpoint. It does have nice miniatures, and that was one of the things that I was excited about. I was caught up in the reason it was so bad. It was this game I played with droids. It was, and I don't know if it's just that droids are broken in the game, but the game I played with droids highlighted for me how absurd the entire game is because it's not a miniatures game; it's an area control game. It's like, yeah, it's like some Euro area control game. It's like the type of game that I hate. So the droids had a thing like B1s could because you can't kill anyone basically it's not just because you can't kill anyone, but it's the fact that those opponents' immortality ruins the game. So a B1 doesn't have very much health. So you activate a B1, you put it in the middle of the board or like right on the objective, and then it shoots. It does, and they have actually a pretty effective attack that pushes other people back. And then I activate maybe maybe I shoot, maybe I kill the B1s, and then the droid player activates a different support droid, like a Kalani or a Kraken or or a tactical droid. All those other droids get to let another droid move and shoot. I've already killed the B1 or wounded it, right? So now it can't be hurt anymore this turn. And so, but that dead, wink, wink, dead, but not really dead droid gets to then move again and shoot. And so it gets to keep pushing his one dead droid that's now invincible because it can't take any more damage until he decides to activate it and then start its life number 2. And he can, and those B1s can just go to the bottom. He can slow roll those so that they stay immortal zombie basically the whole game. And every other droid he's got lets those B1s activate again, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is just stupid. I can't even fight against this thing that's sitting right in the middle of the board. Constantly just pushes on, and since it's area control, as long as he took that middle control point with the B1s when they were alive, it's now his control point. And I can't push anybody on there because anytime even if I push them off, he gets to just walk them right back on and push my guys off. And I can't hurt them. I can't kill them. He chooses if I can only kill them if he says, I'm willing to let them die now. Go ahead and kill them, which of course he would never do. So, I was just like, it's so stupid that the B1 droids are the most broken, overpowered unit in the whole game. They're stronger than Anakin Skywalker. They're stronger than everyone because they're invincible. They cannot be removed from the game, and they can activate every single turn and push your guys away from the control points, preventing your ability to score. And of course, they can't kill you either, but they can push you off the control point. Because again, that's all that matters is just standing on a spot. That's what scores you the points. That's what wins you the games is standing on a spot near a little token on the ground. Which that's AMG loves the whole let's babysit a cardboard token. It's their favorite thing in the world. They love, like MCP did a lot of that. B1 is a good life. Don't be jealous. Yeah, whoever wins the first round will win overall. Generally, that's how it's always worked for me, for sure. It's too big of an advantage because then you can spend the whole second struggle just preparing, just getting in, so getting ready to, and sometimes you can win the first two. Although it's rare to win the first two back to back when I had played. But yeah, I don't know. It's a terrible. I was gonna do my own rules. I had talked about I had my own rules set up for Shatterpoint. I was gonna basically, in short, it was gonna be that if you had a wound token, or if you were like dead the first time, you were ineligible to be affected by anything, including your own stuff. So you're effectively off the board until you activate, because you shouldn't be able to still shoot people while dead. Like, that's stupid. Um, yeah. Well, with all this wasted plastic in this stuff. Shadow Point is still big in my area, but I struggle with it. It just doesn't have the depth of gameplay as you say, all area control. That's why ITU has me hooked. So many types of games. Yeah. Please do something with all this. Well, I mean, I had 2 or 3 bullet points of like the key problems I had with Shatterpoint, but frankly, I don't want to do something that's going to turn Shatterpoint into a good game, because that benefits Atomic Mass games, right? And so, like, and the stuff that I've learned that they did, to deliberately kill the FFG games, has me not wanting to ever help them at all, ever again. So, it's very annoying. So I'm just gonna leave Shatterpoint alone. I'm not gonna try to push a homebrew fix for it. If you want to play it, I'd say just create your own rules, or just paint your minis and put them on the shelf, or do something like that. But because the minis are nice, as much as I don't like AMG, I'm not going to deny that the minis are nice. But yeah, I don't think that's even that much of a hot take, Kevin. Yeah, AMG's pretty lousy organization, it seems. I look at, I have a whole video coming up, I think Monday, talking about kind of going into some AMG stuff. There's nothing new. We were just talking about Shatterpoint and how lousy of a game it is. And it's just so funny to me how I initially, I was caught in this hype of like thinking like, hey man, Shatterpoint's going to be a fun game. And I said, I think it might be even better than Legion in my initial review. So that was fun. But that's kind of where I'm at. So that was another really, really bad game experience, is like playing Shatterpoint, and like the aha moment when I was like, oh, this game is really terrible, and it's a miserable time. Was it AMG that got a cash injection on one of my videos? They did. No, not AMG specific. Asmodee, the parent company, got a cash injection from Embracer Group selling off something else. So, I mean, that's good for Asmodee. I don't know. I think I don't know. I don't really know too much about that, but they paid like half of their debt off, or that's the plan, was they were going to pay about half of their debt off and then keep a little bit of that cash injection for investment in new things. But I think the big thing right now is the really big thing right now is that what is it? That Star Wars Unlimited is doing so well, and I wish I liked card games better, because I'd love to play Star Wars Unlimited more. I just, I bought into the first set, and then like I think it was when I bought set number 2, I finally got a starter box of set number 2, and it was all sold out everywhere, and I was getting annoyed as I couldn't get any more. And then I was like, oh, I should probably make another deck with these. Oh, but I have to go through all of those cards, and I've already got like 3 starter boxes full of cards. So I've got piles of cards up here, and I'm like, this is what I hated about, so this is what I don't like about like games with too many cards. It's like it becomes really hard to go through, sort them all. I would spend, when I was just playing X-Wing, every time I was making a new list, I would spend hours sorting everything out and like finding what I wanted, and then resorting all, putting away all the stuff from my old lists. Imagine trying to do that with a card game. That's all it is I just can't. That's one reason why I do have some Magic the Gathering decks right now, because I don't, and they're right over there, I'm looking at them. I don't have to do any deck building. I only I only buy those pre-constructed commander decks because I don't want to build a deck. I just want to, but I want to have some commander decks to play in case some of my friends are like, hey, we're playing Magic. I'm like, okay, I've got some decks that I can bring. I don't ever have to do anything with them. Like they're just always ready to play, and I'm like, that's cool. It was one of the appeals that Keyforge had with me, is that I didn't have to actually do any deck construction. But yeah, card weighs too much. Even stores don't want to play with them when give them away. Yeah, yeah, it's rough. But the thing is, as far as a game company though, they're making so much money off of Star Wars Unlimited because a card costs like what a fraction of a penny to make. But they're charging like $5 a booster. It's like a 10,000% profit or some crap like that. It's a ridiculous amount of profit they're making off of Star Wars Unlimited. So that game's going to be in it for a while. Maybe if they start coming out with pre-constructed Twin Suns decks or something like that, then maybe I'll give it another look. But I'm just not doing it. I wish they would do a digital version. If they did a Hearthstone equivalent, I almost swore. Yeah, I do swear a decent amount in my personal life. I went a long time without doing it, and I switched jobs a few years ago, and there's a little more swearing. So like I've got some influences that have got me swearing a little bit. I try not to too much though, but every once in a while it feels good. Every once in a while it feels really good to let it flow off the lips and just be like once in a while. I don't know. I try to stay family friendly for the channel though, and I do think I do a pretty good job of that most of the time. But yes, all right, we're gonna wrap this up here pretty soon. Don't really do deck games or construction, although Captain's Chair. Yeah, so I did ask for a review copy of Captain's Chair, so I'm hoping that comes soon. I want to play Captain's Chair. I want to do the unboxing. I want to look at all of those cards and be like, this is the same art style. This is the same art style that we have for Into the Unknown. Does this mean that we're going to be able to do the same? How many of you guys played X-Wing back in the day when we would sit down and like look at cards like, oh, look, there's an E-Wing in the background of this. That means E-Wings are coming. Oh, there's that happened all the time. But yeah, Merry Christmas, Peter. Happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, Happy New Year. Although I'll have videos coming out all next week. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. I will see you guys later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all. And always wash your socks. See ya.